All right. So, what I want to do is talk a little bit today about regret. Um, so, just to give you an idea, that's one of the things that I mean, it's a tough emotion. It's something that everybody deals with. But I want to just sort of elucidate I how tough that is for me to live with, and that's going to determine whether or not I decide to renew the contract. So this is the second installment of the renewing the contract series, uh, and today is going to be about whether or not how regret is going to end up playing into this decision, and if it's something that I can overcome, or if not, you know, just to give you an idea why regret eats at me probably as much or more than most people. Um, I think first I want to define what I mean by a regret. Excuse me. So, a regret to me is a negative situation or emotion or whatever that is of your own doing, something you caused that you cannot fix, no matter what you do. And a lot of times people, people will equate, say, oh, I should have bought this stock, I should have taken this job, I should have uh, bought this house before somebody else put an offer down on it. Uh, you know, and a lot of that is, yeah, there's some regret there, but ultimately you got a different job, you bought different stocks, you bought a different house, whatever. So in some level, people were able to make up for what it is that they regret. A real regret, you have no recourse. And a lot of times, we talk about regret, we talk about pining. Uh, you know, Boy, I should have asked that girl out. I should have, been with this person. I should have been with that person. I should have, whatever. Um, there's an element of that, I think. Um, and I don't want to say that that's not a regret, but it, it's not entirely, you know, it's not going to drag down your existence. You know what I mean? Um, so I think personally, and feel free to comment, feel free to send me a message on Twitter at renewed contract. Um, if I'm wrong, uh, but there are certain things that certain situations that occurred in my life that I that are really painful, like difficult memories for me, that I can't do anything about, and I can't even. It's not like I could bring these things up, you know. I can't just go out there and say, "Hey, look, you remember that time that this happened?" Because they'll say, No, I don't remember that. So, I mean, it's really, it's not fair uh, on anybody else to sort of have to, forgive me or give me an opportunity to make up for whatever, even as silly as the examples that I'm going to provide. Let me give you a couple. So, I was, when I was a kid, um, I was every year. I have a younger brother. Every year we would or even more often, we would go to a science museum thing that was a couple of hours away from us. It was a very popular thing, a large city, close to us. Um, and one of the exhibits that they had was a thing where you'd step on a scale and then you'd jump off of a little thing and it would measure your G forces relative to your weight. Um, and the way it was set up, I know now because I'm an adult, was that you were supposed to land lightly, and it would tell you, try to, and the little animatronic thing. And again, this was 20 years ago, so 1994 graphics on a, in a science museum, but it would tell you to land like a cat. Just land lightly. Just land lightly. See how lightly you can land. Okay. So, this is one of those things that, I'd done before one of the other times that I'd gone up to this thing with my family and hadn't really thought about it. And this museum is one of those places where you can just sort of wander off. So I never was like stuck right next to my dad or anybody else. Um, there were certain situations where if we happened to run into each other, great, but we would sort of be off on our own, my brother and I or whatever, and just sort of explore and learn for ourselves. And this was one of those times where he was, Dad and I were there in the same, and there was sort of a path to the whole thing, so we crossed paths. Um, so we were there in this one particular area, and said, all right, well, let's see who can win this. He sort of challenged me. I was probably 10, but it's kind of one of those things that landing with a certain lightness, doesn't really matter if you're older or younger. I mean, it's the skill, it's the sort of how lightly you land, right? Well, it wasn't sort of enunciated well that I would, be competing to see who would land the lightest. It didn't say, it wasn't who lands the lightest thing. It was just sort of, here's your weight, here's the G you landed with. And then it said land like a cat. Now I'm watching everybody else go up there, and they're jumping off the thing, and they're trying to stomp, and they're trying to do everything else. And I think, well, they're just not paying attention to the advice that it's giving them on how to land heavily. It says in order to, increase your G's, in order to have a higher number, you need to land like a cat and then push off and then just sort of push. So that's what I did. And then my dad actually jumped off and landed like you were supposed to. And came around and said, oh, yep, I guess my number was lower than yours. And I said, oh, I thought the number was supposed to be higher. And, I mean, it was the look on his face. my dad is always a very fair person. You know, if he beat me at something, if I beat him at something, even at 10 years old, whatever. I mean, it was one of those things. All right, hey, cool. You know, he would be proud of me if I beat him, and I would be proud of him if he beat me. And it was just a miscommunication. I thought we were supposed to be jumping harder. He thought he thought correctly that we were supposed to be jumping lighter. Um, it was just the look on his face, like, oh. And we both knew we weren't going to go back and do the same exhibit, the same line again, wait 5 more minutes, jump on the same thing again. There's so much more to see in the museum. He probably never thought of it again. He never thought of it again. I'm sure of it. I am sure, to this day, that if I brought up that stupid little incident, he would not have a clue what I was talking about. And he's got a very good memory. But me, I remember that. And I remember the look of disappointment on his face that he thought there was a lesson to be taught there. And I managed to ruin it or something. And I don't know. So that's something that's as silly as it is. Maybe and again, maybe I'm not alone. Maybe this is something that everybody, has to deal with stupid, superficial regrets. But that's a tough one. All right. So, on that pause. Now we move to the second one that I want to share with you. My wife, soon to be ex wife, at the time girlfriend, um, was going to college in Florida. It was her freshman year. She, got accepted to a really good school for what she thought she wanted to do. It was in Florida, 1,000 miles away from where I live. Uh, but I got the opportunity to go down and visit her. I don't really know how, but it, panned out. So anyway, fly down, visit her. And everything's good, and then we're going to spend the second half of our vacation driving out from Florida to Arkansas. Now, again, she's on spring break, so she has time, but it's from Florida to Arkansas to visit my mom, to stay there for a little while, drive back to Florida, and then I fly back home. So I get down there, and we're gonna meet some of our friends, and these are college kids, and I'm a little bit older than most of them, because I'm older than her. I'm uh, 4 years older than her. She's 18, 19. So at that point I was 23. So I was older than even college kids, and I'm kind of look at me. I'm kind of dorky and white. Anyway, and she buys me an outfit to wear to meet her college friends, guys, girls, whatever. And it's not, you know, my style. Not to say that I have a style. But the jeans. I mean, the jeans were a bit long, but they were sort of torn and shredded and whatever. And she says, I knew you weren't gonna like them when I bought them, but they were, you know, $50. Just wear them for me for this time. And I did. I wore them. God help me, I wore them that time. But again, one of my regrets is that I sort of let her know that, yes, I really don't like these. Even though you spent $50, I mean, she was working her ass off at the time, so it was her hard-earned money. 50 bucks on this nice pair of jeans. You know, I'm sure they were very stylish. They were way too long for me. It's not like I could wear them ever again. But that was the other thing, is that I never ended up wearing them again. We ended up donating them. And, you know, she just wanted me to feel nice, to look nice, to whatever. And I did wear them. You know, you'd think if you did something like that for somebody, you wore something that you didn't want to wear for somebody else, that wouldn't be regret, that would be a good memory. But it's a regret in that I didn't do more. I didn't wear them more often, or, you know, that I wasn't nicer about them. And that's, I mean, it's again, a problematic memory, even though it's quite stupid. There it is. So, those are two memories that, for me, are what I define as regrets. There's no way to sort of make up for them. And, sorry, I have a cat, and she's being a pain in the dick. Anytime she hears me talking, she thinks I'm talking to her. So, but you know, it's so that's regret. Okay. Now I'm in the middle of a separation, theoretically soon to be a divorce, from a person that I don't want to be divorced from. I want to still be married to. I still see her the same way today that I saw her ever. And, you know, I am trying my best to pass off some of the, you know, to try to function, to try to say, look, all right, you know, yes, I have my failings, but, you know, ultimately she left, and so on and so forth. And admittedly, that's true. Hold. There's a problem with that. And that it's that I know that even though some of the things that were asked of me at the time were unreasonable, you know, they still could have saved my marriage. And I'll give you an example. So when it first sort of came out, that I came out to her that I was, having prescription drug abuse problems. Um, she immediately wanted to just check my ass into rehab, everything else. Now, don't get me wrong, to this day, that hasn't actually been necessary. I think I've been clean off of the drugs of choice for 5-6 months now. 5 months, we'll say. And again, 5 months ago it was a relapse from me being clean. So, take that as what you will. But she was ready to throw me in. You have that phrase of jump in with both feet. Well, she was ready to throw me in with both feet, and I knew then exactly what I know now, that I'm sure it would help. I'm sure that rehab, as described, would be a would cure that affliction. But guess what? That probably can be cured anyway. Well, my regret is, why the hell didn't I just go? If I had gone to rehab, I wouldn't be a hell of a lot different off than I am now. I would still have a shitty job, still be in a shitty situation, but she could believe me. It's no different. I'm clean. I'm just as clean now as I would be out of rehab. But I didn't take her up on it. I believed in my own psyche. I believed in myself, and there's downsides to that for somebody who's been through addiction. Granted, but I think it would have ultimately, we went to drug and alcohol counseling. There was counseling just for me. There was counseling just for her as a spouse of an addict, and there was counseling for the both of us. And it didn't work. And I have to wonder, there was an opportunity there that was lost. That, if I, even having been clean now, relatively, for as long as I have been, would checking me into rehab now wouldn't make a goddamn bit of difference. I think. I'm pretty sure. So there's an opportunity that's completely lost there. And that being a huge opportunity to, I don't know if that would have worked. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I mean, I could have come out of there hooked on more drugs. I don't know. But I know that I didn't do that. And now here I am, and she's not here. And I'm alone, and I'm deciding whether or not I want to renew the contract for 2015. I don't think I gave myself as good an opportunity to make that an automatic yes, I'm going to renew the contract as I probably should have. And there's no going back to that. And that's a bigger regret than anything the two little silly scenarios I described earlier were nothing compared to that. And I have to wonder. I mean, I honestly have to wonder if so I'm 30 years old, be 31 before contract renewal date is up. I have to wonder if I live an average lifespan, 80 years, let's say. So that's 50 more. That's 50 more years, right? 50 more years. That's a fuck long time. Am I just going to feel shitty? Just awful about that for all of those remaining 50 years. And I mean, rehab would have been 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Who fucking cares? I mean, they were trying to look out in their minds for my best interest, but in reality, I should have been looking out for my best interest, which was being married. And I didn't do it. So, I have to ask myself, if I move on with my life, if I get a high-paying job, I get a beautiful new wife that, loves me the way I want to be loved, and everything is grand, and have kids and whatever else that people do. Is that regret of not going to rehab, not to get clean? Who the hell cares? It's my choice. But not to go to rehab to save my marriage, my relationship with a person who I've known since I was 19. Is that regret going to eat at me so much that I'm going to be able to be non-functional? Or at least, even if I am functional, I'm functional now. I'm a cog in a wheel. But can I at least possibly be happy with that amount of regret hanging over my head for the next 50 years? That's a tough one. That's something I'm gonna have to come back to. I can ignore it. but it'll never go away. So we're going to continue this conversation about renewing the contract coming shortly. See you till then.